distributed to the smaller radio stations, such as Radio Luxembourg, who played it continuously, and then it got further afield to Radio 1, who did the same, and eventually the song did really well in the UK charts and got into the top 10. In fact, it got to number 9. And you'd think that would be the full story of the single, but no, there's more to it than that, because it wasn't just released as a single to do well in the charts, it was actually released to be the theme song to an Australian movie called The Man from Hong Kong. Jigsaw's song Sky High features in the opening and closing credits of the film, and the global success of that film gave them a worldwide hit. Here we have some original lobby cards from the cinema release of the movie The Man from Hong Kong. And this is the opening scene where Jigsaw's song Sky High features at the beginning of the movie.
Anybody knows the Lunchbox? Used to be the Lunchbox restaurant. Yeah, and he had Don Pardon and a couple of they had a hit at the time.
Yeah, Sorrow.
The Sorrows.
Take it off.
I know he knows everything. So then, what I did, I said to give us a job, give us a work. So he heard they have a black singer, and he took us in. And then what happened? They gave us some jobs to play at the lounge. It was the lounge before the Coventry University, and we went down there. And I can't remember who the people I played with, but I think the second time was Longdown Baldry. Yes, and I played with them, and they came out to watch us because when we heard, we went on, did the first spot, and we'd go to do the second spot. They came out and started watching. So then he called Paul Price's father, who was handling us at the time. He called him in and said, "Look, I'm taking this band from you." And he said, "You can't." He said, "No, we are having it, and I'm going to book them because you don't know what you're doing." Well, they send me home. That's one thing. They send me home and say, "Look, we can't have the King Size Kings. It's not a nice thing because we want something with a soul in it. Because you as a black singer and a soul singer, we want something with soul." So they send me home back and say, "Come back with a different name, what name? Because we can't choose a name for you. So you must get one." So what I did, I went home and the whole night I just sit down. It wasn't the name I was concerned about. It's the way I can write the autograph. So with what looked nice. So the first thing, hello, hi. Yeah. The first thing that came in my thinking is King. Okay, leave the King because they are the King Size Kings. And I say King. But what is to go before it? And I start writing it. And suddenly I just make a R and I say Ray King. Yeah. And I Ray King Soul Band.
1973 was when Silverton Hutchinson, who I grew up with in Fosal in the 50s and 60s, well, more like the 60s, we met again, and since we'd been childhood friends, he'd learned how to play the drums and I'd learned how to play the guitar. And he invited me down to a place in Holyhead Road, on the, inside the Ring Road, where it was called the Holyhead Youth Club, or Youth Centre, and there was a basement. I ended up down in this basement with Charlie Anderson, Gaps Hendrickson, Silverton Hutchinson, of course, who invited me down there, Desmond Brown, Komi Amana, I think, came later. There was several other guys as well who were jamming, but they were the main guys. H, of course, later, and Linval. They came up from Gloucester during that period too. Ray King, whole bunch of people who were so important for everything that happened afterwards. Meeting Ray King gave me the idea to try and form a band with Ray King that was, in my mind, could be one of Coventry's top bands. And I just because he was such an amazing performer and great singer, and he had this legacy of being Raking Soul Band, and having made a really cult album, Raking Soul Band, live at the Playboy Club, a live album. So I talked to Raking about forming a band and getting some of the best musicians that we could find in Coventry, and that plan didn't quite work out to that kind of template. I ended up joining the band that he had already, but eventually, because we only had guitar, bass and drums and Ray singing, we all started to feel we needed another instrument in the lineup, and it was either going to be another guitar player again, or my preference would be to try and find a keyboard player. Now in those days, keyboard players who could play the kind of music that we wanted to play were very rare. It was very, you know, we talked and hoped, and then all of a sudden a mutual friend invited Jerry Dammers to come to the rehearsal, and that's where I first met Jerry. And as soon as he started playing, it was obvious it was going to work really well.
There was a soul band circuit in Coventry, which was obviously a long time before punk rock. Ray King, Night Train, which was, you know, Lynval Golding, Silverton Hutchinson, H. Bembridge, Neil Davis and Jerry Dammers. So there was this big melange of sort of black guys and white guys all playing dance music together.
When we split up, it was the middle of 1976, and already punk was already making its waves, and we were becoming aware of it. And what we've been doing with the band with Ray King was more pop and disco and kind of old soul tunes.
I said to them, let's bring in some ska music. Well, I don't think they knew much about ska, but they did the rehearsing. They did not rehearsing, they did the investigation to find out more about it, etc.
We tried to do a bit of reggae as well. No Woman No Cry was in the set, but that was quite different to punk, and we were both interested, Jerry and we tried to at that point think about let's start writing. We'd already got our own songs. We'd already started writing songs from years before, but we both said let's start working on our own songs.
Myself and Jerry and Neil, we came back, and the two Smith brothers came back, and Jerry said, those guys are not starting. I said, but they know, because they know ska better than I do, because they're from Jamaica, and ska was originated in Jamaica. So I said, they know it, and they might be able to play it. He said, nah, you can get it, you can do it your way. You can have your, you know. So he said, all right, so he said, why don't you get rid of them? I said, no, what are you going to bring in? Well, they had, Lynval, I know was around, but Lynval don't play bass. And we wanted a drummer. And Silverton was a bit moody at the time. And he said, no. And then the conversation was ceased. We went up to rehearse, and only myself and the Smith brothers turned up. Neil and they didn't turn up. Neil was saying he was waiting for Jerry to pick him up or something, or they were getting a lick or something. And then somebody said, they start practicing.
Punk rock was what was happening. The Sex Pistols and the Clash very famously played at the Lanch one Monday evening in early 1977. I know this because the show band that I was in was playing at the Smithfield Hotel just around the corner the same night, and as I was walking down to the Smithfield, I saw all these strange people loading stuff in, and thought, okay. Then went off and did my gig, and then afterwards walked back home and saw them all loading out and sort of milling around and thinking something interesting might have happened there. But that was the equivalent of the Sex Pistols playing the Free Trade Hall, if you like. You know, the people who were at the few people who were at that gig, you know, went off and formed, you know, Squad, you know, and Irrigation of the Wild Boys and all that sort of stuff. So punk rock was happening. And loads of people who could barely play guitar, it gave them the sort of the courage or the sort of the reason to go and form a group, and they did. And you could go into Coventry 4 nights a week and see a group. They might have been absolutely awful, but a scene developed very quickly. The Flies were the first Coventry punk band to get a record deal. They signed to EMI, and they released that Waikiki Beach Refugees. I mean, they used to be called Indian Summer. No, not they. Used to be called Midnight Circus, right. and they were this really good funk band. And then all of a sudden, you know, they had safety pins in their old school blazers, and they jumped up and down as they played when they played, and had songs with "board" in the title, and they were instantly this punk band. But they were really good.
I had no interest in music. That's how it started. My brother, he was the musician in the family, Neil O'Connor, and he was in a band called The Flies.
Yeah, The Flies are actually what inspired Homicide. I went down to see them at Alhambra, I think it was called Alhambra, and they were the first punk band I ever saw. And from that moment, I cut my hair off and was going to be in a band.
There was Roddy, who I remember seeing at Warwick University when the New York Dolls played there in 1974. Him and Steve Connolly, Rodent, were there in sort of teddy boy jackets and whatever, and I was there in sort of flared jeans and cheesecloth and sort of shoulder length hair. But sort of, and I remember seeing him around town with sort of vivid ginger hair and Doc Martens, and thinking, who is this bloke? So they had their band, Roddy Radiation and the Wild Boys, and of course Squad, who were fantastic, but absolutely brilliant. That was Sam McNulty, Scully, Billy Little, and Terry Hall singing, and they were great, and I saw them 4 or 5 times.
Well, the Coventry music scene in the late 70s, when I first started going to gigs, was like very exciting. With the groups like the Sex Pistols and the Clash were playing in Coventry. You know, there was a great sort of feeling at the time. The Specials were just starting out as the Automatics. I used to go and see them at Mr. George's Club. You know, it was a great sort of feeling to be a punk and to be part of something that was a new and original and exciting.
Punk was a big thing, a new thing for a certain amount of people, not as many as would claim it was now, but pretty much, you know, every band came to Coventry to play. It was on the circuit. We had decent venues, so it was really vibrant, and you could get, I mean, if you didn't mind taking your life in your hands, you could go and see the Clash, you could go and see the Sex Pistols, and that, to me, you know, I took my life in my hands. Got chased home a few times, because it was a bit more of a dangerous time back then. With there was a lot of gang culture with teddy boys and bikers, and skinheads were kind of starting up again.
Went to a Chinese takeaway, didn't we? Where you were promptly dragged out and beaten almost to death.
That was in Leamington.
Yeah, in Leamington. It was like it was quite dangerous to be a punk back then, you know, especially in provincial towns. And a bunch of guys set on him and damn near kicked him to death. So we didn't get to do. That was a cheerful little stuff.
I had 14 stitches. They were pushing me around, going, "Anarchy in the UK, is it? Anarchy in the UK?"
Leamington had its own little scene. The Sofas. My wife was in a band called Flack Off. The Sofa Records, that's right, and the Shapes, of course. You know, they played with us a couple of times.
We released an EP called Part of the Furniture EP, which was picked up by John Peel, and he gave us a session, and suddenly we were the biggest band in Leamington, which was great.
But it was a big, exciting time for me and a lot of other people, and it was really inspiring as well. So you could go out, like I say, most weeks there'd be someone on, and then that kick-started a whole load of local bands, to the same way that the Sex Pistols inspired, you know, half the Manchester bands that came after them. That they did the same here, really. They did the same in most cities. So it was, yeah, really important time, and it's what got me into doing music. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you now if it wasn't one for those days. Local bands were beginning to mass, and you could, in much smaller venues, a lot of the pubs actually, bands would just get a little vocal PA and play in pubs around Coventry.
We played quite a few of the smaller pubs. They were all playing School Fates. We played Zodiac. We played General Wolf. There was opportunity to play on at Tiffany's, on if one of the main bands allowed you to play.
The first gig I ever went to, and that was the Stranglers in June '77 at Tiffany's.
We were all in Leamington, but we used to come over to Coventry in the 1977 to see bands at the Locarno.
I think there was times when you could go out every night of the week and see a local band. Maybe one night was a national band, international. You got Iggy Pop or someone or the Ramones, but it was, yeah, that was the big time. Coincidentally, when I was running my fanzine. When I saw all the music going on, I thought I want to be in a band. You know, I had to be in a band. It was important, really, because I wanted to express myself. Because this music actually expressed what I was feeling, like an angry teenager, you know. And I had to do it, but having zero talent in music whatsoever, I didn't do anything in '78. But then I saw that you didn't have to do music. There were independent labels springing up, and there were these things called fanzines where you didn't have to rely on the NME and the national press. So people were doing photocopied fanzines, magazines, whatever, just at home, going down and photocopying them. Sniffing Glue was probably the most famous one in England. And I remember getting a copy of that. I think it was the last one, actually. I had a flexi disc of alternative TV. That inspired me. And then I remember talking with Dill from God's Toys, actually. And, you know, I really liked what they were doing. And we were saying one night, oh, let's do a fanzine.
Alternative Sounds was a fanzine that Martin Bowes was putting together. I knew him at the time because we used to go to the same punk clubs, and I just sort of started helping him out. I didn't do a great deal. I did a few reviews and sort of helped him out, you know, with sort of suggestions for the magazine.
Getting him involved got it kick-started.
There were other fanzines, you know, there was Sniffing Glue and famous sort of London fanzines, but there was nothing local in Coventry looking after the Coventry scene. So it was great, you know, to sort of be involved in something that was going to sort of sort that out.
So I'd never done music, but I always did art. So I was like an art school dropout. And so I did do a bit of graphics and design and things a bit at college. So that helped, actually, because it'd give me a little idea how to put a magazine together, really. So I just, a lot of it handwritten, funny typewriter, a few photos, and I had a little Polaroid camera, so some of them were Polaroid pictures. And then I went and photocopied it in, it was Parbury's down in Albany Road in Earlsdon, I remember. And we did 100, and I think it was 30p. And it had to be that because it cost almost that to photocopy 100, but we sold them all. You know, I went round the old alternative shops like the Wedge, the old like Left Wing bookshop and cafe that is sadly missed, actually, and the record shops, because there was Jill Hanson's and Virgin, the little old Virgin records. So I went and did that, my little distribution. I don't think it went out of Coventry. But I did the 100 and then did another 100.
It was great to have somewhere that could actually bring the bands together. But I think at the time everyone was going to every gig anyway. So it was more like a catalogue of what happened at the time. And for me, it's a great reminder for all those things that I'd forgotten about.
So for the second issue, I remember I applied to the Prince of Wales Trust for a grant, because they did things for young people, because I love the royal family, as everybody knows. And I wrote to them, and I got £100. to go towards doing it a bit better, getting it printed. And so I actually went to, that was when I went to the Lanch, to the Poly, which is Covey Uni now, and to their print department, because they did a little bit of outsource work if you did something that was a bit, they were quite left-wing really back then, which I liked. And I went down there and they printed it, so they did 500 because I think that was the minimum. So I had a few left of those, but it still sold more. And with the contacts I got from the first edition, just people writing to me, and it meant I had some more people writing. So I had a bit more expanded reviews and people sending in things. I'm not sure. I started to get the odd record as well, or cassette or something, and so and photos submitted. So it started to grow. Second one was still a bit embryonic, I'd say, from what I remember it, but it was a big step up from that first one. I used to put it around the shops on the first of the month. And then that day or the next day I'd see loads of people with them rolled up walking around town. So that was really nice, you know, to get that like feedback.
One thing I used to really look forward to as not only as a musician but as a fan of Coventry music was receiving the latest issue of Alternative Sounds. It acted to me as not only telling me what had happened in the Coventry scene and indeed what was going to happen with gig listings, but it also told me about things that I was genuinely a part of, and that's its most significant factor.
A youngster called Pete Chambers started writing for me. I don't remember what issue. He might know. I don't know. It'll be there if we could be trawling through it. We'll find the first music article he ever wrote, I think. So he got involved. In fact, there was quite a few people. There was Alan Ryder and Phil Clark from Nuneaton, and they were all people that started their own fanzines.